Namaste, everyone. In this segment, I'd like to talk about Prayojana and Sambandha of this experience, divine experience or spiritual experience, Anubhava, that we've been discussing so far. So, the first and most important thing about this experience is that the experience of joy in meditation. So, after having this divine or spiritual experience, one truly experiences anandam or joy in meditation. And because that has been enabled, um, I would say that it's a transformative step in that one may say that effortlessly one is drawn towards dhyanam or meditation. So you may call it a stage of sahaja dhyanam prior to sahaja samadhi. The other point is that, of course, it sets one on the path for the true goal. So, although originally or initially the goal may have been the experience, following that, the goal does become the final liberation, or mumukshutvam sets in. Another point is that one's self-confidence on the path increases only about 1,000,000-fold. However, if someone is thinking that do you grow a special set of horns or a halo, well, that is for others to decide. One remains the same person in this world, but there is a removal of doubt and a tremendous deepening of faith. So whereas I had pointed out that the absence of Anubhava leads to persistent questions, those questions, when the true Anubhava experience is had, those questions no longer arise. Probably the final sort of wisdom that is gained after, as I mentioned, this sort of intuitive download of spiritual wisdom is that the best way to live in this world is that which is in accord with the Sanatana and Vaidika Dharma, and that all that is said in the Vedas and was revealed to us by the rishis is indeed true. And as I said, explanations come of one's own accord when answers to questions arise. And sometimes this can even include things that are not included in the Shastra or Shruti. They can be revealed if the mind is properly prepared for the experience. Another thing is that there is no longer a fear of leaving the body, what people call death. While if you ask an ordinary person, they'll say, well, I'm not afraid of death, but no one knows what happens beyond that. Only the dead can tell us that, and they don't come back to speak. The genuine Anubhava will exactly inform you what happens at the time of death and what you should do, and therefore afterwards there is no fear of death. The other point I mentioned, that on the path to sadhana, how the absence of the Anubhava leads to a certain dissatisfaction in the sadhak, that is replaced by a stable joy. But at the same time, as I mentioned, there are difficulties and disadvantages if the mind is not properly prepared. One of them being, as I said, that when this overturning of the aquarium of the mind happens, if the buddhi is not stable, then buddhi nashat pranashari. This is said even in the Bhagavad Gita. So it results in essentially a destruction of the individual. Or in some cases, what can happen is if that is not accompanied by wisdom, the experience, then it can lead to um, a kind of advocation. That person may come out to advocate a path that is avihita or avidhivat or nastika paths. And to come back to this point of, does wisdom automatically happen if you have this experience? And I said, no. I'll give you an analogy there. Um, Suppose you go to a concert. Quite recently, our Sangeet Samrat, Pandit Jasraj, passed away, left the body. Um, if you have listened to any of his music, it has the potential to transform the sheer act of listening into a divine experience. He can take one phrase like Paramanand Das Ko Thakur and sing that in so many different ways with such training and devotion that it can literally transport you to the divine realm. However, if you have no knowledge of Hindustani music or classical music or Indian music, and you take somebody, which often people do as a cultural tourism, take a non-Indian or somebody who is completely unversed in this music, to that concert, they can have the experience, the same experience that you have, but they will not enjoy it and they do not understand it in the same way. They'll come back and say, oh, it's interesting. Oh, very interesting. This music has so many microtones, but they have no clue of the delight and the anandam that you can experience. So definitely experience does not equate with knowledge. Um, and so, as I said, in the spiritual path, it can lead to these avihita, avidhivat, nastika paths, which also are there, but they are not probably for the greater good of not only the individual but society itself. The next thing is that I would say a disadvantage, if you want to call it, or difficulty, is that after that there is no control over how your karma gets cleansed. One is completely at the mercy of the divine. You may be woken up in the middle of the night and you will have to experience it. So that's a price you have to pay. Fourth point is the price of wisdom, I call it. The price of wisdom is that you will understand everyone, but not everyone will understand you. And you will still have to smile and put up with that. And you also cannot say everything that you know to everyone, because that will not be for the greater good. So these are some of the points. Now, moving forward, what I would say is I will give you a guaranteed method of success, practicing which there is no failure. Okay, so it will lead to Anubhava if practiced properly. And if it does not lead properly to the Anubhava, there will still be no loss. Because, as I mentioned right at the beginning, that the faithful observance of Sanatana Dharma, even without this Anubhava, so let me repeat that, the faithful observance of Sanatana Dharma, even without Anubhava, is far greater and far more worthy of respect than the experience of Anubhava that does not lead to faith in the Sanatana Dharma. Okay, so so what is this guaranteed method of success? Which kind of, in a way, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Hato va prapsesi swargam jitva va bhokshase mahim. If you die as a warrior, you will definitely reach heaven. And on the other hand, if you win, you will enjoy the earth. So in that sense, this set of practical things to do is presented. First of all, first step number one, you must have a Nitya Karma. And the ideal Nitya Karma for boys and men is the Sandhya Vandanam. This is an incredibly purificatory and japa practice. It has both in it. It has purification and practice in the most efficient and effective way. Essentially, the practice involves purification and then the Gayatri Mahamantra Japam. That will definitely lead to Anubhava. This Nitya Karma, when it is practiced uninterruptedly for some course of time, will naturally lead to the other important Nitya Karmas such as Brahma Yagyam, the Pitru Deva Rishi Tarpanams, and those observances, and eventually even to the Agni Kriyas such as Samidhadanam, Aupasanam, Agnihotram, the Samidhadanam for brahmacharis, the other for grihasthis, other homams, yagyams, etc., which are purificatory. Once for that is the Nitya Karma for boys and men. For ladies, highly recommended to commence with the Devi Kavacam. That's a very complete prayer, and it has all the wisdom that one needs. That Devi Kavacham having been mastered, one may then also commence the practice of the Lalita Sahasranama, if not daily, at least weekly or on certain auspicious days. The Nitya Karma aspect being taken care of, one must cultivate Bhakti. Without Bhakti, this Anubhava will not bear its desired fruit. And that Bhakti, I will give you two paths, so to speak. Those who are extroverted, who like pomp, who like ceremony, who like the richness of life, will be attracted to the Vaishnava form of worship. For them, the Vishnu Sahasranamam is a suitable daily practice of bhakti to take on. Those who are introverted, prepared to withdraw, austere, are drawn to the Shaiva forms of worship. For them, Ganesha is the first, and one must worship Ganesha because it is his consort who is Siddhi. Without Ganesha, there will be no Siddhi. I've given you other reasons in the past why Ganesha ruling the Muladhara is essential. Without him, one cannot access Shakti or Devi. He can be worshipped very simply on a daily basis by any of the like Shuklambaradaram or the Vakratunda Mahakaya. In the Shuklambaradaram verse, I noticed to you that Prasanna Vadanam, meditating on his pleasant form, is essential in order to have the depth of meditation which leads to Anubhava. When we say Vakratunda Mahakaya, remember there is a phrase there, Surya Koti Samaprabha. It is this Ganesha who is going to lead you to that experience of a crore suns, the light of a crore suns, which you will see in that Anubhava, is opened up by this Ganesha only. Besides, he is the Ganana Isha, he is the Lord of the Ganas, Ganapati. So it will naturally evoke certain leadership qualities in you. When you see people who have the experience who don't speak of these things, you may be assured that that experience has not been complete and fruitful. There is another very beautiful Ganapati Atharva Shirsha mantra, which is very Upanishadic in nature, somewhat longer, and that may also be practiced, chanted to cultivate bhakti of Ganesh. Once the bhakti of Ganesh is there, then of course Devi, bhakti of Devi is necessary. One may hang a picture of Devi in your room. I've already mentioned the various dhyana shlokas for Ganesha, Devi, and Shiva. For Shiva, there is also the Shiva Manasa Puja beyond the dhyana shlokam, which again can be practiced daily. This bhakti must be cultivated. At the time of the divine experience or the spiritual experience, there one will have to transcend all the fears and navigate, and only the bhakti will save you there. The third aspect you have to cultivate is Gyan. Without this, again, the Anubhava experience is not fruitful. This can be cultivated through, say, reading the Bhagavad Gita or any of the Upanishads, these being part of the Prasthana Trayi of Vedanta. In particular, the Mundaka and Mandukya Upanishads, Isha Upanishad, Kathopanishad, these are highly recommended, and we have been discussing them in our satsangs. One may also study the Prakarana Granthas, which give you the key or glossary to understanding the terms, like Tattva Bodha, for instance, by Sri Adi Shankaracharya. You may also study the Tripura Rahasya or Yoga Vasishtha. These are very useful tracts for those on the path of sadhana. This is the Jnana aspect. After these three are completed simultaneously and concurrently, one may do the Raj Yoga aspect, which involves Hatha Yoga, Asana, Pranayama, Mudra, Samadhi, and then the Yoga Sutra, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, again containing 4 padas, and the associated Sri Vidya Tantra practices like Bhuta Shuddhi, etc., may be pursued. So, as you can see, the groundwork of the preparation, Nitya Karma, Bhakti, Jnana, are needed, on which then, when Raja Yoga is built and that experience is had, then it is fruitful. And so with that, I will conclude this discussion and question, very nicely brought up about the spiritual and divine experience. And I think I have comprehensively addressed probably more those points and questions. I hope that you all are able to follow these. And as I mentioned, Anubhava is given by the grace of the Lord. And this particular sequence will lead you to guaranteed success and will give you unfailing felicity. Namaste.